Close your eyes and breathe. Can you smell the dry sand of the desert? Can you hear the water of the great Nile? Today, we are traveling back. Not 100 years, not 500 years. We are going back 2,000 years. This is a time of giant stone statues and golden palaces. This is the time of the pharaohs. But our story is not about a man. It is about a woman who was smarter than any king. She lived in a world of men, but she ruled them all. Her name was Cleopatra VII. In this video, we will walk her path. We will see how a young girl in exile became the most famous woman in history. We will learn the words of power, the words of love, and the words of war. Welcome to the Legends Path. Let's begin our journey in the city of marble, Alexandria. Cleopatra was born in 69 BC. She was a princess of the Ptolemy family. This family was very special. They were Greeks, but they ruled Egypt for 300 years. Young Cleopatra did not play with dolls. She played with ideas. Alexandria was the center of science. It had the great library. Imagine a building with 700,000 books. Cleopatra spent her days there. She was a polyglot. Do you know this word? A polyglot is she learned Hebrew. She learned Arabic and Ethiopic. She could talk to anyone. But life in the palace was not peaceful. Her family was like a nest of snakes. Her father, Ptolemy XII, was weak. The people called him the flute player. He spent too much money. When Cleopatra was 18, her father died. He had a will, a final letter. He said, "My daughter Cleopatra and my son Ptolemy XIII must be king and queen together." There was one problem. Her brother was only 10 years old. He was a child. But his advisors, the men behind the throne, were hungry for power. They hated Cleopatra because she was smart. They wanted a king they could control. They did not want a strong queen. In the year 48 BC, the war started. Not a war with another country, but a civil war, brother against sister. The king's advisors told the soldiers, "Kill Cleopatra." She had to run. Imagine the queen of Egypt sleeping on the sand. She had no bed of gold. She had no servants to wash her hair. But she did not cry. She was a lioness. She went to Syria. She used her voice and her gold to find an army. She stood in front of the soldiers and said, "I am your queen. Follow me, and we will take back the Nile." While Cleopatra was building her army, a giant arrived in Alexandria. His name was Julius Caesar. He was the most powerful man in Rome. He came to Egypt to find a Roman enemy, but he found a mess. He stayed in the royal palace. He said, "Ptolemy and Cleopatra must come to me. I will decide who is the ruler." But Ptolemy's soldiers blocked all the roads. Cleopatra could not walk into the palace. If she tried, she would die. She needed a plan, a legendary plan. This is the most famous moment in history. It is night. The city is quiet. A small boat moves slowly to the palace. In the boat, there is a man named Apollodorus and a large, heavy laundry bag. Inside the bag was the queen. Apollodorus carried the bag past the guards. "What is that?" they asked. "Just some dirty clothes for the Roman general," he replied. They entered Caesar's room. Caesar was old, tired, and clever. He saw the servant put the bag on the floor. The bag opened. Cleopatra stood up. Her hair was messy, her dress was simple, but her eyes were like fire. She did not look like a victim. She looked like a winner. She began to talk. She didn't talk about clothes or jewelry. She talked about the Roman Empire. She talked about the grain of Egypt. She talked about a partnership. Caesar was a man who conquered the world, but in that moment, Cleopatra conquered Caesar. He realized that this woman was the partner he needed. Together, they could rule the world. Ptolemy, the brother, was furious. He saw his sister and Caesar together. He shouted to his army, "Attack the palace!" This was the siege of Alexandria. For months, Cleopatra and Caesar were prisoners in the palace. There was no water. There was no food. One day, the Roman ships in the harbor caught fire. The fire was giant. It moved from the ships to the city. It moved to the great library. Thousands of books, the history of the world, turned into ash. Cleopatra watched her favorite place burn. It was a tragedy for her heart. But Caesar's soldiers finally arrived from Rome. In a great battle near the Nile, Ptolemy's army lost. The boy king tried to run, but his heavy golden armor pulled him down into the water. He drowned in the Nile. Cleopatra was now the only queen, but she was not alone. She had the protection of Rome. She had the love of Caesar. And soon she had a son. His name was Caesarion. He was the bridge between Egypt and Rome, the son of a goddess and a god. In 46 BC, Cleopatra did something very brave. She went to Rome. Imagine the scene. The people of Rome are standing in the streets. They have never seen an Egyptian queen. Suddenly, they see a giant golden sphinx. On top of the sphinx sits Cleopatra. She is covered in gold. She looks like the sun. Caesar gave her a villa by the river Tiber. He did something even more shocking. He put a golden statue of Cleopatra inside the temple of Venus. Venus was the goddess of love. The Romans were angry. "How can he put a foreign queen in our temple?" they asked. Cleopatra lived in Rome for 2 years. She showed the Romans the luxury of Egypt. She showed them science and calendars. Did you know our modern calendar comes from the scientists of Cleopatra? But the Roman senators were afraid. They saw Caesar as a king and Cleopatra as his queen. They thought, Rome will become a colony of Egypt. On the 15th of March, the Ides of March, Caesar went to the Senate. Cleopatra waited at home. But Caesar did not come back. He was killed by his friends. Cleopatra's world broke. She was in a dangerous city. Her protector was dead. She had to run again. She took her son and sailed back to Egypt in the middle of the night. The Lioness was alone once more. After Caesar died, Rome was in a big war. 2 men were fighting for power. One was Octavian, Caesar's young heir, and the other was Mark Antony, Caesar's best general. Antony was a soldier. He loved wine, women, and fighting. He needed money for his army, and only one person had all the gold in the world, Cleopatra. He invited her to a city called Tarsus. He waited for her in the center of the city. He thought, she will come to me and ask for my help. He was wrong. Cleopatra made a show that the world never forgot. She arrived on a ship of gold. The oars were made of silver. The sails were made of expensive purple silk. Thousands of flutes and harps were playing music. The air around the river smelled like the most expensive perfumes. When Antony saw the ship, he forgot his name. He forgot his army. He forgot Rome. He walked onto the ship and he saw a goddess. Cleopatra was dressed as Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Antony invited her to dinner. She said, "No, you come to my ship." For 4 days they had the most expensive parties in history. Cleopatra was not just beautiful, she was funny. She drank wine with him, she played games, and she told jokes. Antony was a simple man, and Cleopatra was his dream. He followed her back to Egypt. The Lioness found a new protector. In Alexandria, life was a celebration. Cleopatra and Antony created a secret club. They called it the Inimitable Livers. It means people who live like no one else. Every night they had a competition. Who can make the most expensive party? One day, Cleopatra made a bet. She said, "I can spend 10 million sesterces on one dinner." Antony laughed. "Impossible." Cleopatra took a large pearl from her earring. She put the pearl into a glass of vinegar. The pearl disappeared. She drank the liquid and smiled. "That was a very expensive dinner, Antony." They were happy. They had 3 children, twins named Alexander Helios, the sun, and Cleopatra Selene, the moon, and a small son named Ptolemy Philadelphus. But in Rome, Octavian was not laughing. He was watching. He was writing letters to the Roman people. "Look at Antony," he said. "He is not a Roman anymore. He is a slave to the Egyptian queen. She is a witch. She is using magic to control him." Did you know? Historical fact. Octavian was a genius of propaganda. He used fake news to make the Romans hate Cleopatra. He said she wanted to move the capital of the world from Rome to Alexandria. The year is 31 BC. The world is at war. On one side, the Roman fleet of Octavian. On the other side, the ships of Antony and Cleopatra. The battle happened at Actium, near Greece. It was a terrible day. The wind was strong. The Roman ships were small and fast. Antony's ships were big and slow. In the middle of the battle, something strange happened. Cleopatra saw that the Romans were winning. She was afraid for her life and her gold. She turned her ship and sailed away to Egypt. When Antony saw her leaving, he did something crazy. He left his soldiers. He left his ships. He jumped into a small boat and followed her. His army was shocked. Their leader was gone. The battle was lost. The dream of a great Greco-Roman Empire was dead. Cleopatra and Antony arrived in Alexandria, but they were not inimitable livers anymore. They were losers. They knew that Octavian was coming with a giant army. They were waiting for the end. Octavian arrived in Alexandria. He was like a cold machine. Antony tried to fight, but his soldiers left him. He heard a false story. Cleopatra is dead. Antony did not want to live without her. He took his sword and wounded himself. He did not die immediately. He was carried to Cleopatra's tomb. She pulled him up through the window with ropes. He died in her arms, covered in blood. Cleopatra was alone. Octavian came to her. "Don't worry, Cleopatra," he said. "You will be safe." But she knew the truth. Octavian wanted to take her to Rome. He wanted to put her in a parade. He wanted the people to laugh at her. "I will not be a prisoner," she said. "Never." She asked for a final bath. She dressed in her most beautiful royal clothes. She put on her golden crown and her jewels. She sat on her golden throne. A servant brought her a basket of fruit. Inside, hidden under the figs, was a small black snake, an asp. Cleopatra took the snake and put it against her arm. The poison moved through her blood. It was fast. It was quiet. When the soldiers opened the door, they found her. She looked like a sleeping goddess. 2 of her servants were dead next to her. One of them, Iris, was fixing the queen's crown. "Is this right?" a soldier asked. "It is perfect," Iris said. And then she died too. Octavian became the first emperor of Rome. He was called Augustus. He tried to destroy Cleopatra's name. He said she was a bad woman. But he could not destroy her legend. For 2,000 years, artists have painted her face. Writers have written her story. Movies have shown her life. We still don't know where her tomb is. Maybe it is under the sea. Maybe it is under the sand. She is still a mystery. Cleopatra was the last pharaoh of Egypt. When she died, an era of 3,000 years died with her. But her path, the legend's path, is still open for us. She teaches us that a mind can be more powerful than an army. She teaches us to be brave until the last second. Thank you for walking with us. You have learned more than 50 new English words today. You have listened to the longest and most beautiful story in history. One final question for you. Do you think Cleopatra loved Antony, or did she only use him for power? Write your opinion in English in the comments. We want to hear from you. See you on the next path of legends.